Quad C6. I tried something and it went horribly wrong. How's that for some clickbait title? So this is what I did. Can you see it? Can you see what's missing? So what I did here is I wanted to try to test a little theory that potentially mounting the flight controller rigidly to the frame might actually help. Not because it's going to decrease the noise, but because it's going to resonate at higher frequencies. So basically things that are more rigid are going to resonate at higher frequencies. Things that are less rigid are going to resonate at lower frequencies. So the idea here is if we go ahead and mount the flight controller to the frame in a rigid way, are we going to decrease, are we going to let through, we know we're going to let through more high frequency stuff, but are we going to decrease the propensity for low frequency oscillations, mainly with the idea that the little gummies are rubbery, and so given that little squish in there may potentially let the board vibrate at lower frequencies. Kind of a, I don't know, on the surface maybe plausible idea. I'm sure to some of you that, you're obviously thinking it was a really dumb idea. But anyways, I tried it and it was clearly worse. I'll show you the logs. But basically flew this along and it was shaking until it fell out of the sky. So let's jump onto the computer and I'll show you the logs that came off of that. And so at least this particular iteration of that concept just didn't work.
Jumping into logs here, I've got two logs. I've got a baseline with the usual kind of gummies to mount the flight controller, and then the one without the gummies. And so what I have up here in the log is I'm showing you gyroscaled and gyro pitch. Sorry, gyroscaled roll, gyroscaled pitch. And so that's going to be all the stuff that's kind of jagged going up and down. So that's pre-filtered. Well, it's filtered internally on the gyro, but otherwise unfiltered. So the same quad, just with that one little change. And so this is kind of the baseline when you're just sort of cruising around. This is about the amount of gyroscaled noise that's in there. Here we're going to go into a full punch out. You can see the throttle is all the way up here. And we can see our motors not quite maxing out, but get up there. And not surprisingly, as we're punching out, there's just some more noise. Then we go into, at the top here, quad starts rotating, kind of go into a split S, sort of a flip, diving back down, and then we go ahead and catch it. And then here's the prop wash as we sort of catch the move through there. So keep that in mind, that's sort of the baseline. And now with no gummies. So to me, one of the things that's a little bit interesting here is just at baseline, there's, kind of I expect the high frequency jagged stuff, but actually this low frequency, like look at this low frequency oscillation that's kind of built into here, which to me surprised me a little bit because I expect the high frequency stuff because I don't have the gummy in there, but I was a little bit surprised how much of that low frequency stuff got in. So then as we get into the throttle, you can see things get really ugly here as we start making more motor noise. And then what's interesting is there's one spot right here where the quad's actually probably a little bit cleaner. So this is as we're off the throttle and just kind of rolling the quad. And compare that kind of right in here, where here we see with the gummies, we see some of this residual noise, versus without the gummies, it just cleans up just a little bit cleaner, which I thought was kind of interesting. Maybe a little artifact, maybe it's real, who knows, but I thought that could be slightly interesting. And then the other part that I think is slightly interesting is, come down here and here's the catch, here's the prop wash. So the prop wash is clearly noisy, but it's not organized into the usual sort of prop wash we see. Let me get back into that prop wash here. So here on the quad, we see this real organized prop wash where it's like, oscillating. And without the gummies, it's noisy, but it doesn't organize into that kind of big, oscillating kind of prop wash that we saw with the gummies. So overall, not a ton to take home from this other than that sort of theory didn't work. I guess to kind of finish up that theory is that So we expect more noise overall, but then we expect it to be more higher frequency, which the filtering can get better, et cetera, et cetera. But unfortunately, after we filter this, then what we do is we take whatever noise is left and we amplify it with a D-term. So now I put in the D-term roll, and so this is the baseline with the gummies. And you can see this quad is not great to begin with. This is actually fairly noisy on the D-term. Definitely more than I'd like to see. And then when we took the gummies out, show you here, this gets even worse, unfortunately. And you can see that's a pretty dramatic difference. So, it looks kind of impressive when you're looking at gyroscale, and then you magnify with the D-term. And this actually got so bad to the point where, towards the tail end here, so in here, started getting some really ugly stuff, and the quad started to desync, and actually had a full desync and fell out of the sky. So that is the take-home message here, that we have our theories, and in this case, this theory didn't entirely pan out. Now, I guess in fairness, one of the things to thinking about no gummy baseline, so gummies versus no gummy. With the gummies, just like filtering with your software filtering, I do expect that the gummy introduces some lag, some delay. And we see that, let me turn off this D-term and get that out of the way. We see that in terms of where does it manifest? Well, we talked about that prop wash, right? This is stuff, this big oscillation you get right here, this is an oscillation that you get because of that lag from the filtering. So, one thing that we could consider is, well, how much less lag is there when we take out the gummies, and are we not making a fair comparison because we're not increasing our electronic filtering? So I guess one last thing I should do, maybe I'll actually do it. Let me try one more thing. Let me go ahead and say, yeah, okay, so without the gummies, we have less latency because we don't have the gummies in there. And so let me throw some just D-term. So let me think about this. All right. When I look at my noise, what I'm seeing is just this broad, kind of ugly stuff. And so let me try and hit this with a little bit more D-term low pass filter. And we'll look at one more log just to be fair. Let me go grab that log. No. Well, look at that. No, I'm just kidding. This is actually in that off power flip, which is where it does look clean. But no, so I did this now. I turned up the D-term filtering. I actually turned up both the gyro and the D-term, and it's just still unflyable quad. Well, it's flyable, but nothing you'd actually want to fly. So no, that didn't fix it. So little experiment here. Not all experiments work, but some people who really like to dig into this stuff might find this slightly interesting. Maybe not surprising to most of you, but here it is. Here's somebody who actually did this with this little, kind of open prop loop sort of build. All right, till next time. Cheers.